We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education will tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you almost jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
No, not really. Since I haven't spoken on this, get a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single time. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America. Systemic racism that has plagued our nation for far, far too long. I said that over the course of the past year that the blinders have been taken off the nation, the American people. But what many Americans didn't see or had simply refused to see couldn't be ignored any longer. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that took George Floyd's life opened the eyes of millions of Americans and millions of people around all over the world. It was the knee on the neck of justice, and it wouldn't be forgotten. And it's not white Americans' fault, but just a fact.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest. It meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, but many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good afternoon, good evening, good evening on the West Coast, good evening in the mountain, good evening in the central, good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the reparationist perspective, bringing you those ADOCS hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote and socializing our suffering. And today, family, This is a hodgepodge of an edition of your midday wake-up call with pocket watching, with anti-Black racism report. It's just a mixed bag this evening. I don't even know that I have the energy to come back for another hour. I'm supposed to be on twice today, but I have just been exhausted, family, from all of the puckery. I have been mentally exhausted, and I had a lot of things on my to-do list to manage today, and I almost didn't come on until I was talking to my girlfriend out of Flint, and you know her. She's friend to the show, Jamie Burton Orr. Shout out to JBO. She's been on here for my Corona Gate segments. But anywho, she lives here in LA, and she's from Flint. And we were just dishing, chopping on the bit. And I was debating on whether or not to come on. And she shared this amazing news that this Asian white inferior glacier donkey, civilian, had his bond increased and is now back in custody. I'm with Brian. Shout out to you, Brian. And for those of you who have yet to chat, where you are caping hard for ADOCS, welcome to the live. Brian says there should have no hashtag, no bail, just jail. I absolutely agree. I've been in my feelings since screaming and going off the rails yesterday about this 6-year-old being shot by this white inferior glacier donkey who is Asian. I've shared with you guys many times that this government, because they struggle with fertility, are just making people that are close to them in complexion, who have money like them. You see, you can't be no poor nothing, and they make you white. So they waved the magic wand and made Asians white, the wealthy Asians, and they've made the wealthy Hispanics white. And of course, there's a lot of black white in the country. They're not taking in poor blacks. Those Haitians are being put on planes by ICE and being deported back to Port-au-Prince. But they will take you, if you like, from Nigeria or one of these places. If you come in this country with money, that gives you access to whiteness. And that's what you see taking over in every industry. Black immigrants are taking over roles in Hollywood. Okay, so it's a lot of that going on. And yeah, I'm here to talk about it and to tell you how I see it. But I want to jump into today's article, this breaking news story that has me super excited and is about the only way my ruffles are being smoothed out from yesterday, because I, as many of you, was harder than fish grease about this baby, 6-year-old. This is crazy to me. It is insane that these white inferior glacier donkeys in all persuasions, black, Asian, Indian, white, Hispanic. I mean, it's not a color thing anymore, right? It's a money thing, and whom the government decides is white to bolster up their numbers to stay in power. So I am mortified because this is not the first report of a 6-year-old being shot. I'm not really going to go into the other one, but I did share on my Facebook about how the white man that was the passenger riding roughshod with an Asian white woman in a fit of road rage shot and killed a young Hispanic boy that was in the back of his mother's car headed to kindergarten. 6 years old, dead. And I was explaining in that Facebook how the median home price is like $900,000 in Costa Mesa, where they finally found the Asian and the white glacier donkeys hiding out. They had ditched the car. There was about a $450,000 reward for their capture because, of course, they shot into the woman's car in a fit of road rage. So you guys be extremely careful out there. It's not worth your life. You got to let some things go. But Apparently, there was some road rage. The Hispanic woman flipped the bird or did something to incite these glacier donkeys in the opposing car. The man literally just took out a gun and shot into the car, and having done so, he struck and killed her 6-year-old son. They've had his funeral already. They raised, I want to say, $450,000 in order to capture this person. That was supposed to be the prize money. But this country has lost its natural glacier donkey mind. They have lost it. I really can't understand how here in California they have actually reversed, the courts now have reversed the decision for, and now you can carry assault weapons around California, as if we don't have enough mass murdering going on throughout the country. Now the judges, the courts have overturned. I think this has been on the books since, I want to say it was invented for the sake of disarming the Black Panther Party. So it's been that long since this, ban on assault weapons here in California has been on the books. It'll just be open season. So I'm encouraging you guys, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Note to self, I hate guns, but look at what it's becoming. It is really out of control. So let's get to the good news of the day. I'm going to try not to scream this segment. I'm tired of losing my voice. I'm tired of being tired and exhausted from being so angry. So I'm going to do my best to just remind myself to pull it in, okay? I called on Black Jesus to fix it. Black Jesus fixed it. The man who allegedly shot the 6-year-old, he's back in custody after the court increases his bail following community outcry. Now, my girlfriend, Jamie, friend to the show, she was one of the people in the community out here that was making dials for an organization. Hopefully they list that name of that organization in this article, because I wanted to look them up and tell you about them. But there were community organizers, boots on the ground in Michigan, where this occurred. And they rang the alarm, and it reached all the way out here to the West Coast. She was one of the ones participating in the phone calls that were off the charts, and rightfully so, about this white inferior glacier donkey Asian man being able to have and make a $10,000 bail after attempted murder of this Black 6-year-old kid. I think he's biracial, but the one drop rule, he's one of us. So the man is back behind bars after the community outcry over his release on a $10,000 bail for allegedly shooting a 6-year-old boy. They have to use the word allegedly. But yeah, that went down. That actually happened. Ryan Lewin is back in custody after his bail was increased to $100,000 during a hearing today. Eli Savage, Washtenaw County prosecuting attorney, told USA Today. Washtenaw sheriff deputies responded to calls that a 6-year-old had been shot in Ypsilanti Township, Michigan on Sunday. They found the boy suffering from a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. He was taken to the hospital for treatment and later released. An altercation between the boy, a 14-year-old, and a 9-year-old occurred with Lewin prior to the shooting. Derek Jackson, Washtenaw Sheriff's Office Public Information Officer, told USA Today. The incident was captured on a video by a Ring camera and showed children running down a sidewalk when a gunshot goes off. Lewin was charged with assault with intent to murder, assault with intent to do bodily harm, and 2 firearms charges. In Michigan, assault with intent to murder carries a lesser sentence than attempted murder, and prosecutors chose the one with the most significant penalties, Savage said. Well, praise God that even though Biden signed executive orders to give this Asian white inferior glacier donkey protections without doing a damn thing in his first 6 months to guarantee we have protections that we've been fighting for in an anti-lynch bill for 100 years now. Thank God the prosecutor in Washtenaw County saw fit to go for the maximum penalty of attempted murder. There is a God. Lewin was arraigned on Monday and later bonded himself out on the lower $10,000 bail, and has the unmitigated gall to be talking self-defense against a 6-year-old who was unarmed. He's 6. He went to pick up his bike off the man's lawn. The man came out the house with a sledgehammer and then went back in the house and shot the boy in the arm. If it hadn't passed through, he'd be dead. Jackson said the sheriff's office received a lot of calls from people upset in the community about the bond, but noted the sheriff's office doesn't set bonds. It's a prosecutorial process and judicial decision, Jackson said. The outcry from the community and disagreement with the magistrate's court decision led the Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office to file an emergency motion to cancel Lewin's bond. Quote, we share in the community's pain and anger from a child being shot, and we know that for many, the pain and anger is compounded by the fact that the defendant was able to make his bond as set by the court, Savage said in a Facebook post Wednesday. During the hearing, Lewin's bond was upgraded to $100,000, and he was taken back into custody without incident. Quote, we are glad the defendant is back in custody to ensure the safety of the community, Savage said. He was shot in the arm, but a couple of inches over, and he would have been dead. Okay, so that's some good news. Now, I'm also calling, I don't know how true this is. I've not looked this up, but in Facebook, let's look up what I shared on my timeline as shared from somebody else's timeline. That this Mickey Ficky actually owns a successful business in Washtenaw County. I was expressing with you guys yesterday, and I need to make sure I put clarity around what I shared in terms of the data. How we are 32% of the population, and 32% of us are below the poverty line by 200 times, okay? Let me be clear. Of the 32% population, 32% are 200% below the poverty line. Okay? I didn't want to leave you thinking that 100% of the blacks in Washtenaw County are actually in poverty. 32 of the 32. Okay? 32% of the 32%. Okay, so this is the business that you should boycott. Family business of the man who shot the 6-year-old. It's called Vietnamese Pho House Restaurant, Noodles and Grill at 2224 Washtenaw Road, Ypsilanti, Michigan, 48197. Okay, so my phone is dying. So let me shut all of this down. So, and silence it before we get into any interruptions. Okay. So I gave you all the information for that man's family-owned business. This is the biggest, I have the biggest problem with this. I think that's why I went all the way off yesterday. The unmitigated gall for 87% of our electorate to put Biden-Harris in office, and for them to fulfill what they already said on the campaign trail. 2 things. Ms. Chuckson Pearl said she's not doing anything specifically for black people. And Biden said nothing would fundamentally change. So 87% of our electorate goes out to deliver them the White House. And they've done absolutely nothing to include us socially nor economically. So it sits a different way when I see that Biden has given them protections and they're able to be emboldened enough to literally shoot and damn near kill one of our 6-year-old children. This is problematic for me on so many levels. To see them just giving away money to all these other groups, to just really sit in the fact that they're weaponizing immigration against us. And yet I've got people, even in the new black media, telling me not to blame the poor immigrants because, you know, America with 3 Ks created the crises in their countries, which is causing them to put pressure to get into our country. That's not my monkey nor my circus, but the Democrats and the Republicans alike are making it ADOCS problem. There ain't no way you should be bringing in immigrants when you haven't made us American. There's no way you should be trying to figure out how to feed, clothe, and house all these immigrants whose countries you created the crises in with our tax dollars and make that our burden. That's what I've got a serious problem with. And I know that many are like, Angela, you're crazy to be imploring upon the people to vote a red top of the ticket in a blue Congress to protect the over 53% of ADOCS who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism until they cut the checks into trillions over multi-generations. You guys can't tell me any other solution. Are we just supposed to allow what's happening? Because I don't give a damn what you say about Donald Trump and all the things he said and his misbehavior as an overt racist. You're all too willing to sit in benign neglect about the fact that you just installed 2 racists, plural, with a combined 65-year racist record in office against ADOCS. All of a sudden, folks want to talk to me about how reformed Joe Biden is, as he sits up here and hasn't done anything for our people in his first 6 months in office and has no intentions and no plans but to now come after our vote by bringing in a floodgate of immigrants. That's going to be our failure in our communities to eat as they get all type of set-asides with our tax dollars to build businesses on top of us and then be able to treat us any kind of way because we've been neutralized economically and can't afford to sue. So that's what I take issue with. No, they don't give a damn about immigrants unless it serves capitalism. And capitalism requires an anchor. And they decided long ago we were it. You see, white folks ain't Johnny come lately with strategy. This has been in the works for at least 200 years. This ain't new. They ain't new to this kind of puckery. They true to it. The first time they weaponized ADOCS who were newly emancipated with nothing, right? They gave all the repair to the slave owners and the white immigrants to flood this country, took away the 40 acres and a mule and gave it to them. And now folks want to look at me crazy when I say we're owed $151 million, according to the mayor's consortium, who says we're due $6.2 quadrillion. Now folks want to look at me crazy when it ain't my fault that the debt is so high and continues to mount with every passing day that they neglect to do this right. It's not ADOCS monkey nor our circus. The number is the number. And so they don't want to pay that. And their capitalism needs an anchor. So they decided long ago, we'll make ADOCS eat the cost of slavery and make them fourth-class citizens in the country their ancestors built with their lives. And are still building with their lives. So they don't give a damn about immigrants, only in as much as it serves them their bottom line to keep us tethered to the bottom. This is not new. When we were newly emancipated, We were the albatross around the white folks' necks as the immigrants are to our necks. The Great Migration, west, east, north, anything but the South, where we were being lynched by the thousands, businesses being burned down in droves. So we were that to the whites. And now the immigrants are that to us. And in a little bit, in about 15 years, the robots will oppress the immigrants. And the plan will be finished. And the problem with that is it's going to make people behave like the Hunger Games. That's why you got to get your guns and be ready. Make sure they're cleaned. You must. You don't have a choice. Because when they get hungry enough, they're coming into your house to take what you've got. So, welcome to the live, y'all. So that's that story. I just need to bring that breaking news. I want to jump to I've got so many reparations stories under the Pocket Watching series to share with you. This is one of them, just one of many. You see, the reparationist movement, formerly the ADOCS movement, we made reparations the household name. Yes, I know there were many groups that preceded us that were trying, but there was no greater effort than by the ADOCS movement, of which I'm a proud co-founder of. There was no greater push for a discussion on reparations than the one born out of that movement. We managed to weaponize social media to make reparations a thing right now. But the problem is that the leaderless leaders imploded the movement, and so we lost momentum. You see, what should be occurring in all these states right now is a coalition for a just and equitable California, which formerly was the ADOCS California. Had we worked cohesively instead of folks' egos going amok, we would have Camila Moores in every state to control what was happening to the state and local repair. Because it's a shit show right now. Let's talk about it. Push for reparations for descendants of Ocoee Massacre. But let me share this with you. Welcome to the live. What's up, Joel Jones? I see you, my diaper buddy. Love you, black and strong, all of you. Welcome to the live. And for those of you who have yet to chat where you're slinging bricks, welcome to the live. So let's talk. Let's get into this video. Hold on. Saves me a little time when I show a little video, okay? Then I don't have to go horse reading everything. All right. Push for reparations for descendants. And then we're going to talk about what they've managed to do. This is some bullshit. Hold on.
From morning to night, when changes in weather happen,
nothing matters more than keeping your family safe.
Make sure I let you guys see. I'm going to let you see more of that than me right now.
This is our promise that you can depend on the Fox 35 Storm Team when it matters most.
For descendants of the Ocoee Massacre. This is actually the second time in history that the efforts have moved forward to pay reparations to descendants.
As Fox 35's Matt Trezza explains, an announcement today brought this one step closer to reality.
Gladys Bell is a descendant of July Perry, who was murdered during the Ocoee Massacre. She remembers her father talking about how they managed to survive the deadliest election day in American history.
He was only 18 when he had to flee with his sisters and brothers, you know, one on his back, and he just had to run through, and they had to go around Lake Apopka through the woods to escape being killed.
In November of 1920, an angry mob killed several black people at Ocoee because they were trying to vote.
I thought it was terrible. That was so terrible. But because of the way we were taught, we never was taught hate.
Today, State Senator Randolph Bracy announced that he'd secured reparations in the new state budget for descendants of the Ocoee Massacre and other black Ocoee residents. The state will set aside $305,000 a year to help 50 students, giving them up to $6,100 each toward their college or university educations. Students like Rain Bellamy, who plans on attending Florida State.
And I believe this is an amazing day for us, and it is one of the first few steps. We have many more to take, but this is an awesome opportunity, and I would like to say thank you to Senator Bracy for all his hard work and all the other people who lobbied for this bill to come into place and be placed into action.
Students will be able to apply for the Bracy Scholarship through the Department of Education's website starting in July. In Ocoee, Matt Trezza, Fox 35 News.
Okay, family. So there you have it. Now you were probably going to say, well, Angela, why are you upset? Why are you having issue with that nothing burger? I have shared with you in the archives that education doesn't close an over $100 trillion egregious racial wealth gap. And while I get that the states don't have the money that the national does and can't repair us to the tune of 151 million like the feds need to, we'll take payments in installment, like how most of us are on installment and credit. We don't have any, we're not cash rich, we're debt rich, okay? We're debt poor, okay? So we'll take a payment plan. But the challenge I have with this is that they are sitting up here trying to tell us what the reparations should look like. What commission was put together to calculate the cost to the descendants of the Ocoee Massacre in determining that 50 students a year will get $6,100? And so what you've got happening to all of these reparations programs throughout the country is really a fire sale on our repair. It's a flat out fire sale. And folks are sitting up here acting grateful because they don't have advocates like myself in the reparationist movement at those tables. Okay? I was reading somewhere today, and I shared it with my comrades. I'm going to flesh this story out. But they were talking about setting aside, in Asheville or Asheville, North Carolina. Let's look it up real quick. Let's look it up. Asheville reparations. I think that's what it is. Asheville leaders appropriate $2.1 million for reparations. Hold on. Okay, so many of you will look at me like, well, Angela, what's your problem? What they gave $2.1 million in Asheville, North Carolina. Why do you take issue with that? It beats a zero until you learn that the gross domestic, the GDP, is 16.9 billion with a B. It is an outright fire sale to be given the people that descend from U.S. chattel slavery in North Carolina, 2.1 million, when you are now 16.9 billion in net worth. As a result of our ancestors' heinous chattel slave labor. When you're not at the table, you are on the menu. And so this is what is happening all throughout the country. Because egos imploded a thing that could have taken momentum and been the success that California has been. We weathered that storm. We put our heads down, changed the name, got rid of folks off that commission consideration, and now we're blessed to have one of our very own comrades chairing the AB 3121 Commission for California reparations. It won't be no housing voucher. Hello, Evanston, Illinois. It won't be 2.1 million when you worth Asheville alone 16.9 billion. It won't be a $6,000 stipend towards a $100,000 loan that you need annual. I think at least $100,000 to do 4 years in a bunch of these community places. They're going to offset that $100,000 in loans with $6,000, and you graduate and can't even get a job commensurate with your debt, can't buy a house, and that debt will follow you to your grave because you're unemployed and underemployed and having to work gig jobs just to eke out a living in the country our ancestors built with their lives. I'm not for none of this bullshiggity. Give me hard cold cash. I can educate my own. I can buy my own premium health care with premium services. I can open my own business and finance it. I won't need you to give me a loan that costs me more than the loan itself in the end, like a damn payday loan. I can buy my own house. I don't need you giving me a housing voucher for $25,000 when the median home price is $500,000. And I don't have a job or I'm underemployed and can't afford the mortgage once you give me the $25K. I can leave this godforsaken country if that's what I choose to do with my cash reparations. Y'all don't have to treat us like children. We're not just slaves anymore. You don't have to decide how I should spend my reparations. If I want to blow it on weaves and nails and alcohol or Jordans or put it back into the white community, ain't nobody's business what I do with my reparations. And I am sick and tired of those white racist tropes. And I'm sick and tired of the CBC, the black white supremacists, the Asian white supremacists, the Hispanic white supremacists, the Indians who owned us, white supremacists, and the white supremacists, trying to tell us what to do with our repair. For slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. It's none of your business. Cut the checks. Because without them, we will be as extinct as the Indians. And I'm sick of hearing us running around here doing the white folks' biddings as the black white supremacist. I'm sick of that. I'm sick of our benign neglect. I'm sick of us not playing chess with our vote. I'm sick of us throwing our votes away on a Democratic Party that ain't done shite for ADOCS specifically, whom they owe. We've been voting blue since FDR. We are at George Floyd, 9 minutes and 29 seconds to the neck. This is serious business. And y'all need to get y'all's heads out your proverbial asses. And if you don't like my strategy of weaponizing the vote, because I don't give a damn what you say about Trump, he was building a motherfucking wall. Y'all the only ones on Kumbaya Pan-Africanist bullshit. Nobody else is but y'all. Ain't nobody crying over this bullshit but ADOCS. They ain't crying for you. Their PACs are working for them. Your PAC, our PAC, the CBC, and our caucus is caucusing for them. Sitting up there promoting their protections from us who make them billions of dollars of sales because their liquor stores, they hair shops, and they nail shops are in our community. They beauty supplies. They own that. And dare you to try to get a piece of it. In your own community. You're being gentrified out. They're snug as a bug in a rug. Their median national income is $87,000 to white folks $65,000, which is why they stormed the Capitol. They're losing to Asians in their own country that they stole and killed from us. And ADOCS is $41,000. Now, with the national median home price of $340,000, where are we going? It's worse now. I can't even find the current number since the pandemic. Now they talk about new strains cropping up in Michigan. When Fauci has been revealed through his emails to be a known liar. It's a pandemic, like I've been calling it all along. To get the bag in the drug industry and to control the population. All of my conspiracy theories are coming to light, and they're true. This is killing our people. Literally and figuratively. This is not a good look. So, if you've got something better as a wealthless group than red top and a blue Congress to protect the over 53% of ADOCS who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism, please offer up your ideas. Because unlike the other groups, even Hispanics are doing slightly better than us. We build it, they eat it. So if you got something better as a wealthless group who can't pay for your own politics, I'm open. But what I know about Trump is that he was holding back immigrants. It's a total shit show now, thanks to Biden and Obama. And immigration hurts us. White folks are rich. They done killed and stole all of it from us. They can survive pandemics. They can survive immigration. They'll be mad because their margins won't be as large. They don't want to share. I'm saying we can't afford none of it. We were already the highest unemployed and the highest underemployed before the pandemic. You got ADOCS down here being evicted. Not just from their apartments, they're being evicted from extended stays now and choosing between taking their lives or living on the street. Even the extended stay Americas are evicting them. Well, Newsom and the California lawmakers just gave themselves a pay increase. We're being pushed out of California. Median home price is close to $1 million down here. Brian says, so with these new variants, are they going to have people go back out and take more vax or booster shots? Of course they are. They can keep this racket going. Not with ADOCS. Only 12% of us went out here and took those things, okay? That's why they're giving away weed. They're giving us weed habits. They're giving us sugar diabetes by offering Krispy Kreme every day in natural born life, whatever remains of it, after you eat on the Krispy Kreme every day from getting a vac. They're offering reduced sentences. The sentences couldn't get reduced on the strength of the states are selling marijuana. But now that they want to give you a free vaccination after eons of medical apartheid that we've actually survived, now they want to reduce your sentences for a vac. Biden wants to give away 500 million vaccines, paid for without tax dollars to give to the world. Did the world ask for those vaccines? We had 2% die from the coronavirus. 10% infected with the coronavirus. So it appears to me like the stay-at-home orders has kind of worked to mitigate this. Okay? It's worked, but we're still out of work. While 25 states end the extra $1,200 stimulus from the federal government because that's too much a come up. Would you also feel ashamed of your fool ass self to think that $1,200 additional dollars a month is a come up for anybody in this country? The allegedly wealthiest country in all the world. $1,200 is a come up? Get back to work? With what jobs? You've given the jobs that black folks used to work, the lower skilled labor, to the Hispanics. And yet y'all want to stop the $1,200 extra stimulus, which is probably helping. I know it's helping ADOCS to survive a little longer. Like I said, we were the highest unemployed and underemployed before the pandemic. And so, yeah, we got to do something. And I'm telling you, I believe that at least we can slow the Titanic down by delivering a red top and a blue Congress. Trump may have said a lot of mean things and tweeted a lot of mean things, but he didn't create the 94 crime bill. And Biden ain't doing nothing with it. He ain't doing nothing to end the privatization of prisons. That's the not so new slavery. They're setting these immigrants up for education and politics. They are the working professionals. They're the working professionals, and they're seizing on these political offices and popping babies left, right, and center in a way that we abort. That's proportionate. They're having as many babies as we abort because we can't afford to keep our children. Or they get trapped in the social services under that enslavement where they suffer all manner of abuses to their own demise. Rest in power, Ma'Khia Bryant. As they took them two glacier donkey teenagers who shot at them with AK-47s and shit, took them alive and want to white-splain and mayo-splain how they were caught up in the system. None of those graces were extended to Ma'Khia Bryant. They'll make excuses for their own. It'll be the videos, it'll be the rain, it'll be the Martians, it'll be ADOCS, it'll be social services. Any reason to take them white inferior glacier donkey children to give them a pass for shooting at the cops. While Tamir Rice, Ma'Khia Bryant, the list goes on and on, gets annihilated by the white inferior glacier donkey race soldiers, who, oh, by the way, are domestic terrorists. They are the KKK. But the KKK is everywhere. They're in government. They're on the police force. They're in the schools. They're in the courts. They're everywhere. And so, yeah, the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You'd have thought y'all had learned under Obama, who said no to your reparations, which makes it harder for us to get reparations. Let's talk about it. What time am I at? 6:30? Oh, I'm almost at an hour. But I can squeeze in this one more story. Yeah. Let's talk about Jim Crow Sloppy Joe. Biden privately tells the lawmakers not to expect much on reparations legislation. Joe Biden was more blunt about racism than perhaps any president before him, and than many in the crowd expected in his remarks commemorating 100 years since the Tulsa Race Massacre Tuesday. Quote, he called out how through the years there have been members in elected office who were very public about their association or membership with the KKK. Me speaking. That's a quote from Representative Cori Bush. Nothing has changed except they're no longer public about it. Cori Bush said in the parking lot of the Greenwood Cultural Center. He set up the scene in his speech to take us into what was happening at that time. Me speaking. Let me tell you what these Mickey Thickies did. This Greenwood Cultural Center, the corporation spent $30 million to commemorate the event while offering little to no money to the descendants of the Tulsa Race Massacre and its current living descendants. $30 million. That's why the shit was canceled that day. John Legend's ass was going to be in concert under that corporate umbrella designed to do what? Talk about what they did to us, show the world what they did to us, gentrify us up out of Tulsa, Greenwood in particular, and not make us whole. We get Sheila Jackson Lee dancing a goddamn jig in the middle of the ceremony. Biden left his wallet at home. Has no intentions on making the living descendants of that travesty, the living witnesses of that travesty, whole before they expire. God bless them to hold on to what? I think 107 was the eldest, Miss Viola Fletcher. Somebody said they were getting $100,000. I've not really been able to find any real hardcore evidence. I thought they rejected the $100,000, of which they should have. But you got $30 million to build a museum and a baseball stadium where John Legend was supposed to perform. The community got that shit canceled. We'll talk about it. He set up the scene in his speech to take us into what was happening at that time. Me speaking, he took a goddamn tour beforehand and remembered a couple of facts throughout the $30 million establishment. I am not impressed. Like these butter biscuit eating representatives of ours. I'm not impressed. And that was really powerful. I was so glad to hear it. But some attendees noted what they considered a glaring omission any mention of reparations for the survivors of the massacre and their descendants, some of whom have sued the city and state for compensation, and a full-throated endorsement of H.R. 40, which would create a commission to study reparations. A cashless reparations is what they're trying to study. More programs they give with the left and take away and give away with the right, like affirmative action. That's what they're studying. How can we make $5 white ADOCS, $5 Hispanic ADOCS, $5 Indian ADOCS, who've been getting reparations since 1866, that they denied the descendants of Cherokee and Seminole Indian enslavement? $5 Hispanic ADOCS. How do we take what's owed to the ADOCS and give it to everybody so we can continue to keep them as the anchor of our country with 3 Ks, capitalism with 3 Ks? That's what they're trying to study. How not to give it to us so that we can finally do what they constantly been telling us to do with no resources. Pull ourselves up by our bootless straps. Back to the text. The bill passed out of the House Judiciary Committee in April for the first time since it was first introduced in 1989. ADOCS. As a candidate, Biden said he supported a commission on reparations. As a candidate, you see. But the administration is yet to endorse the actual bill because they got what they were coming for. Just like Obama, when she promised Mitrice Richardson's dad that she would look into prosecuting, bringing those race soldiers up on charges who let that beautiful sister free up in Malibu at 2 a.m. with no keys, no car, no phone, no shoes. She promised Mr. Richardson she would open up investigations to see if there was grounds to charge these race soldier glacier donkeys for having done so. Mitrice had some type of psychotic episode up in Malibu while paying for dinner. Her grandmother offered to pay for her meal. The restaurant instead called the cops. They took her to jail. Her mother, who was a good, hour away, 2 hours, in as much as how dark it gets, around the time they reached her mother around midnight, she asked if they would hold on to Mitrice overnight because it was too dark for her to make the drive. These Mickey Vickies let her free at 2 a.m. to her own devices, and she was murdered. By what and by whom, we don't know. So Kabama said, as she was running for the Senate seat, that she was going to open up investigations to try to see if there was any merits to charging these race soldiers, which they were all there. It's on recording that you talked to the mother and said you would keep the child, the woman. You promised her mother because she said she would come. But if you kept her overnight, she could at least see her way up to Malibu to get the baby, the woman. So plenty of grounds. But Kabama knew that if she promised this man that she would open up investigations to see if there was grounds for prosecution of these white inferior glacier donkey race soldiers, she knew she would get the black vote to turn up and out for her. For Senate. And it worked. As soon as she got elected, she closed the case and said there was nothing to see. Same thing here. Biden talking about H.R. 40 as a candidate to pander for your vote. 87% of our electorate deliver him the vote. He ain't talked about it since. Let's keep reading. I just wanted to make that analogy to help you understand why I'm pushing for weaponization of our vote, the only commodity we've got as a wealthless group. Red top, blue Congress. These are myriad of the reasons. You got something better, presented to me. The repprospect@gmail. But the administration has yet to endorse the actual bill. After a speech Tuesday, the president met with the members of the CBC, who brought up the need for H.R. 40, which is named after the 40 acres and a mule promise that now symbolizes the lack of support formerly enslaved people received from the federal government. According to those involved in the conversations, Biden let them down gently. Of course he can, because Obama did it first. Obama set the stage for every president henceforth to deny us reparations. But faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things yet to be seen. Lean in, ADOCS and allies. Quote, he didn't disagree with what we're doing, said Representative Brenda Lawrence, Democrat in Michigan, the second vice chair of the CBC. He did talk about his plate being full with trying to get the infrastructure bill passed, and that he really wanted to make sure that he could get that through before he took on anything else. Doesn't that sound familiar? When the civil rights leaders implored upon him to do something about the state-sanctioned executions against us, that he needs to focus on winning Georgia, and that the Hispanics are going to take this over, so get used to it. When asked about reparations on the debate stage, he said immigrants built this country, and I'll be damned if we're going to mistreat the Hispanics. You see how the whitewashing of history just continues in its diabolical, vicious cycle to deny ADOCS the justice claim. You have my back, I'll have yours. Biden's biggest concern on H.R. 40, Lawrence said, is getting it through the Senate. I don't recall him being, he didn't have to rely on the Senate to give AAPI $80.5 million. How'd you get that done by executive order? You may not be able to do reparations like that, but you could have looked at our Economic Recovery Act. You could have looked at our COVID relief. No, you decided to give AAPI $80.5 million for their COVID relief while we're dying disproportionate from it, for their domestic violence, as we die disproportionate from domestic violence, and for their anti-Asian racist sentiment, which we're dying disproportionately from anti-Black racist sentiment. You only talk about needing the Senate, which is supposed to be blue now. How can it be hard to get this done with a blue Senate? Because you got Republicans in Democratic clothing. In many of these red states, 2 Republicans are really running. 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. And those are the ones that we have to work like hell to unseat with no money. So you got concerns of getting it through the Senate when we delivered you a trifecta, including Georgia. We turned Georgia blue, but somehow, before 2022, it's hard for you to do anything with the Senate on this measure. Show you right. The bill also hasn't even been scheduled for a full floor vote in the House, where it has 188 co-sponsors. Why not? You see the benign neglect of the very people who delivered them the White House? They're just moving quickly to replace our vote with that of the immigrants by giving them everything in the farm. That's what's happening. Tuesday in Tulsa illustrated the dichotomy that has come to define Biden's approach to issues of race and race equity. No president has so forcefully called out the nation's sordid history. At the same time, Biden has downplayed the likelihood of legislative action, sidestepping calls for him to embrace rules reform in the Senate to allow easier passage of relevant bills. In addition to expressing fear that H.R. 40 would die in the Senate, behind the scenes, Biden also announced on Tuesday that he was handing off the voting rights portfolio to his VP, Kamala Harris. What a great way to scapegoat. Between Obama and Manchin, you could just scapegoat doing anything with our Voting Rights Act. No executive orders to guarantee ADOCS can continue to vote throughout the country. For the nearly all-Black crowd inside the Cultural Center, which included the 3 remaining survivors of the massacre, descendants, local leaders, and activists, the Tulsa speech was a milestone. They watched and clapped as Biden went into detail about the massacre and drew a through line to issues Black people still face today. Representative Hank Johnson, Democrat of Georgia, CBC Whip, said Biden's speech was meaningful for Tulsa in the country, adding, most of America had absolutely zero knowledge of the greatest single atrocity to Black people in the country. There are about 50 of these all over the country. For him to use his pulpit like the Black preachers, that was me, to publicize what happened to them has to have been cathartic for them. Thank you for joining the live. Let me wave my banner. Let me pass the plate. Pure evil, you're right. Fair. Welcome to the live. Thank you. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. And thank you for your contributions to my voice and my advocacy and my 10 series, you know? Like, thank you. I appreciate y'all. Let me go back to the puckery. Excuse me, family. They watched and clapped. Let's jump down. For him to use his pulpit to publicize what happened to them, as if they don't know what's happened to them. It's only been 100 years and they still have nightmares. I don't think that they were as invested in him recounting the horrors of what they have to live every day. That's not a big whoop to the descendants of this massacre. And the 3 remaining survivors who have yet to be made whole. Pander, 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 back. Now it's a pulpit. To publicize what happened to them has to have been cathartic for them. To hear the white man know our history, know our suffering, know our accrued, ongoing, systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage. The white man said it out of his own mouth. Glory to God. These bootlicks have got to go. In the lead up to Biden's Tulsa trip, the administration announced initiatives to narrow the racial wealth gap, including inequities in home appraisals and increasing the goal of federal contracts for small disadvantaged businesses. Excuse me, 90% of our businesses are sole proprietorships, maybe 95%. This kind of bullshit he's doing is to make everybody whole the way they used our affirmative action to make them whole and to leave us on the bottom as the anchor. Don't get excited over this bullshit. I've got the archives to show you it's a nothing burger made to make everyone else whole while leaving us anchored to the bottom. Don't get excited. Look at the archives. And in a gaggle on Air Force One on the way to the event, Principal Deputy Press Secretary Corinne Jean-Pierre said that Biden supports a study of reparations, but believes that first and foremost, the task in front of us is to root out systemic racism where it exists right now. You mean protections for the Asians? You ain't been concerned about rooting out systemic racism since y'all dragged us here in chains. And you don't believe 151 million per ADOCS would remedy systemic racism? It will probably not get rid of systemic racism, but at least we would no longer have to give a damn about it. We can pull ourselves up because we will finally have boots. That's what you don't want. You want us to remain your slaves. But for some of the audience, simply supporting a study wasn't enough. Quote, I personally would have liked to hear the word reparations. I think that he was very strategic in the words he used. He used the word repair, said Nehemiah Frank, a descendant and founder of the Black Wall Street Times in Tulsa. If you want to pull the people together, you can't fully help Black people. That's how I feel about it. If you want to make Black folks happy, you're going to piss a lot of Americans off. I don't give a damn who it pisses off. The debt is the debt. As for comment, an administration official noted that, quote, the president reiterated to the congressional members that he is actually doing the work right now on breaking down systemic racism and racial disparities. For who? The Asians? It's at the heart of his work in the administration. I can't tell. Oklahoma State Rep. Regina Goodwin, a descendant, maybe that because they believe their lies don't make it true. Oklahoma State Rep. Regina Goodwin, a descendant of survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre, who has been fighting for reparations in Tulsa for decades, says she would have been pleasantly surprised if Biden had mentioned reparations in his speech, but wasn't really expecting it. She added she spoke with Biden about a range of issues privately, including H.R. 40, and he reiterated to her, we're in talks. Oh, look, it was not in the speech, but he was gracious enough to be here. He was gracious enough to take the steps. He was open to the conversation. A lot more than I could say for some folks, she said. I'm tired of us being grateful and forgiving for nothing. Back to the text. This was not a celebration. People are mourning. Every day counts for these survivors. And I think that people just play games with Black people's lives too much. It's not enough to just come in and say words and reiterate the truthful narrative, Heath said. Last year, Heath published a report on reparations for survivors of the massacre, saying it could and should serve as a test case for any larger federal reparations study or program. Instead, we're prayerful that ours will set the pace for what the feds do for us collectively. Because it's watered down, nothing burger all over the country. Only 16 people qualified for the $25,000 housing grant and repair in Evanston. That ain't no example. This is a huge national and global moment. Everybody is looking here. So why not start the process for the president? Why not make Tulsa a precedent for reparations nationally? Why not commit to signing H.R. 40 into law? Why not commit to establishing an H.R. 40 reparations commission if the legislative avenues fail? He can do something. He chooses not to do anything. Reparations for Black people in America has been a politically fraught and risky topic for Democrats for decades. More scapegoating. We deliver you the White House, but reparations has been a politically fraught and risky topic for you. But we deliver you each and every time. But it's fraught and risky of a topic. Though Republicans have essentially never wavered from their opposition, but activists say this is why we need a blue Congress. And for those that are voting on the lines of Republicans, get them out. That's where all of our energy and efforts need to be. They need to be replaced with full-chested cash reparationists. But activists say they have reason to remain hopeful even as the issue moves at a snail's pace in Congress. We don't have a choice but to keep hope alive. We're standing on the shoulders of our ancestors who managed from their conviction into action. Their conviction turned action to emancipate us. To get us what little civil rights we have. Their resolve. So who are we to fold on reparations? This is the easiest part of the whole entire movement to free us. We've got the creature comforts of our homes and our internet. A Political Morning Consult poll from earlier this year found that just 38% of voters supported a committee to study reparations, but 60% of Democrats supported the formation, while 74% of the Republicans opposed it. Despite the frustration in H.R. 40's position on the Biden priority list, activists and CBC members promised to keep pressing the president and leadership in Congress to get the bill to the House floor at the very least. It's our work to continue to push him. We're not going to seat a perfect president, Bush said. And so we know that we have to look at what our needs are and push. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. Thank you, family. Let's see what y'all got to say about it. Welcome to the live, y'all. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you for your contributions to the broadcast. What's up, Amos Jones? I see you, fam. Beef Murphy 1. Let's go back and read what my illustrious co-hosts have to say about it. The comments I've yet to read, then I'll pray us out. Y'all know there's more puckery, but I want to relax. I want to Netflix and chill. I'm tired of this bullshit. HR 40 study. Okay, let's see what Brian. Yes, tell the truth. JoJo was in my amen corner. Let's go back. Truth, Joel says, really right here in the OHIO. Ooh. Yeah, I think she's referring to the pandemic or how poor we're becoming as a result of it. I'm reading back to the comments. Joel says, extended stays are the new home for the ADOCS community. Ain't that some shit? We build it, they eat it. And we get to fear weekly an extended stay, whether or not we'll be able to stay. Speak, yes, tell the truth. Brian says, HR 40 study. How can we turn ADOCS reparations into a class-based poverty program? On the day of the HR hearing, one of the representatives started talking about Mexicans at the border. He shouldn't even been at the table. He should not have even been at the table, Brian. That's exactly what the CBC is trying to do. If you look at the CBC and the Hispanic caucus and the Asian caucus and the others, you'll see comparatively that the others cater exclusively for their groups Only the CBC has a class-based policy, which we all know does not fix race, and all lives matter under the CBC umbrella. So they can continue to deny us, not answer to us, get the votes from the immigrants and the white folks who they pander for, who they actually work for. I'm tired of them white-splaining Biden's benign neglect of the very electorate that delivered him the White House. Brian says the next time Democrats ask ADOCS to vote out of a sense of false urgency, as if usually the case, we should get on code and say, go ask the Hispanics. Baby, we won't even have to ask them to go ask the Hispanics. That's exactly who they're doing everything for, them and the Asians, to win those voter blocks so they don't even need our vote. Beef Murphy says pure evil. You're right. Joel says a fucking joke. You're right. Beef Murphy says Sheila Jackson Lee was shaking her ass. Honey, dancing a jig. Coonin. Truth says Amos Jones. Brian says Tulsa presentation, political pulpit pimping. Baby, that's... I've got to flash that. That's got to be in memoriam. That's got to be memorialized on this segment. 50 freaking students from the Ocoee Massacre. Mr. June Perry was executed by the race soldiers for pushing for the black vote in Ocoee, Florida. And all their black, and I do want to say he's probably an immigrant. Most of these immigrants are holding elected office, blacks too, who have awarded $6,000 a year in a stipend for education to 50 students a year. They claim it's black, but I'm sure by the time it's said and done, it'll be for all of the rainbow, okay? 50 freaking students. You're right, JoJo. That's what I said. I didn't stutter. And the city really didn't give reparations. The city did not give the $2.1 million. It was dollars from a land sale. Don't that be all? She's talking about Asheville, where I shared with you that it's $16.9 billion in GDP, gave $2.1 million to the descendants of chattel slavery in Asheville, North Carolina, that was not given from the city. They took it for this dollars from a land sale. Joel, that's the same thing they're doing in Evanston. The $10 million is the tax dollars from weed sales, from marijuana sales, that they decide how you spend it. You don't get a say. The people have already spoken and said they want cash reparations because this housing grant cuts out the majority of ADOCS in Evanston who can't even afford to buy property. They're renting. So the renters get none of that $25K. Thank you for sharing. With that said, family, that's enough puckery for one evening, okay? I may be back tomorrow. I'm just going to come on when I get a window, you know. I'll give you guys enough advance notice because I don't even know. Some people are still complaining they're not getting their notifications. And this is why I'm moving. I will only be live here soon. And all of my content will be stored over on my own website, thereprospect.com. Please join the email list for a subscription. I'm becoming my own Patreon, you know, so I can speak on things like hetero ADOCS love. I can speak on the pandemic without a push of a button like Racebook did and wipe out 300 of my videos and 4,500 of my subscribers. I don't want that to happen to me over here on ScrewTube. So I'm in the process of transitioning these videos over to that website. And yeah, that's how it's going to be. You'll catch me live or you'll catch me on my own site. If we don't see you tomorrow, have a great weekend. You too, my love. I'm going to do my best to come back because I'm behind. I had to heal my throat, and then I shot the throat, at my daughter's track meet. Then I shot it more when I was screaming yesterday about the baby being shot by the Asian white inferior glacier donkey. And so I have a bit of a voice now, but you guys understand, I know you do, that it's a lot. This is a lot of low energy information I'm bringing to you to keep you informed. And I have to take care, I have to do self-care. So I'll be popping in and you guys will get as much notice as I can give. And just know this, that I love you black and I love you strong, that the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOCS and its allies are, God truly is, because family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God, the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until the next time, family, you make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening. Mwah. Peace.